is a quick follow-up to a previous video that I just did. Now, about the real-time imagery for September 11th, 2001. Very specifically, instead of December of 2000 and December of 2001, images were added to a database eventually because of being released to the public. Now, this is a copy of Google Earth Pro 7 because that's the one we're required to use. Older versions are denied access. I've zoomed this out as much as possible while still retaining the plume from the burning buildings at the Twin Towers. I want you to notice this is the edge of where this says here that year 2000, December 30th, and then it shows September 11th, 2001. The edges are very clearly demarcated. Where you go across a certain point, it says it's from a different year. This is how the maps are put together anyway. These were really high-resolution images taken from airplanes flying overhead of the major metropolitan area that day, and they were either declassified or released or whatever. But again, most of this is done using airplanes. Virtually all of it. Satellite images, in case you haven't noticed, are pretty blurry. The only clear images you can find are of people who happen to be in orbit pointing a camera down and or other work after the fact. Again, there was no real-time satellite capability at the time, and there really still isn't. But you can change the time and date stamps and go ahead and do these experiments yourself. I'm going to poke it in. And a lot of people have already done this YouTube video. I pointed to one in the previous video. And when you zoom in this close, all of it will show as 2001 just about, and September 11th specifically, but some of it won't. There are little patches that don't. And you'll also notice something very, very specific. The image was taken from just north of the towers because of the angle of the buildings. Everything is very consistent with that, it seems, but it's not really. You see, we're seeing that it was kind of a curved view. The images are knitted together as best they can, but you can see how absolutely this does not look like an idealized map of the area. It's actually pretty difficult to see what this really is. Contrasting that with doing this imagery, which says it's from 2017, where the images are hand-picked to be pointing straight down. Even then, there's some tilt. The idea is with a map like this, you're trying to get rid of any 3D effect because you need to have clarity of seeing streets so you can navigate when you want to zoom in and go find, the burger joint or whatever. But even then, as we zoom in, it's not that the buildings are tilting our way or away from us. It's that that's the angle the images were taken at. Even a satellite image will show some tilting. But this one here was the plane going over straight overhead on this area. And here you can see it was over to our lower left on that image. If you go further down, you'll see there's more or less tilt to it. So if you want to, you can kind of figure out, this is a trick we used to do, you can figure out where the airplane was positioned when it went over. Most of these are done from a slightly angled perspective on purpose because it simply makes it easier to do the imaging. It does lend perspective so you can figure out how tall a building is. It might make you able to recognize it a little bit easier. But it is not a satellite image because you do see the tilt. Satellite images would show an even amount of tilt everywhere, and there's not. Some of this is straight up and down. Some of this has a harsh angle to it. It's kind of cobbled together. And, of course, Google being Google, when they tried to correct it and put it right, they ended up making a 3D projection mess that makes it even more, it makes the trees turn into bubble gum. And as you can see from this one, the imagery date is September 11th, 2001. And when we zoom out, it makes sense. Again, it's got that same harsh tilt to it, but it's really grainy because it was mostly a single image. If we go far enough north, it can't maintain that anymore, and it starts saying that it's from a different date eventually. Some of these are actually done because they figured, well, if we're going to scan the area, it might just as well, but it was made a no-fly zone immediately on that day. You can watch a video below where everything got shut down for the day. Most of these images have to be done from airplanes in order to get the quality and imaging you think we should have. And yes, there is some secret technologies for it, I guess, yes. And again, like I said in the previous video, it's probably black and white images because that's more useful. But I would like to point out the super secret methodology people are referring to always boils down to being aerial photos, even if it's from drones or Cessnas or whatever. The links below in the description will also match the previous video, but you might want to look up not just Gorgon Stare, but all the other ones, including the DARPA project with using a 1 gigapixel or higher camera range. And it was done again from a collage of cameras strapped to the belly of an airplane, because that's just better. And as you can see, the photo gets more and more distorted the further south we go, and the further north we go. It says it's 2001, September 11th. They were flying from way over here, pointing the other direction. See how it gets less and less angled as we go further north? Eventually it'll stop saying 2001, September 11th. So, no, it wasn't a satellite image from extreme north angle. It could be, but it's not likely at all. And even if it is, well, it can't be. The resolution is way too high for it to be a real satellite image. You can also look up, why is it that Legolas cannot actually see 8 and 9 miles away and tell who is who on The Lord of the Rings. It's actually going to be linked below as well. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.